Hello. How do you even start a video or a conversation, and how do you keep a conversation flowing? Communication skills are essential for good and productive interaction. They're important for our professional and personal relationships, and the lack of communication skills affects our relationships, our jobs, and our businesses. So in this video, we're going to talk about those communication skills and how to develop and improve them. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and for everyone who's new here, welcome. I'm Anna. And I can tell you right away that being able to speak in general doesn't mean automatically being a good conversationalist. So in this video, I'm not going to be focusing on your actual ability to speak, but on how to speak to people so that they think that you're an interesting conversationalist and so that your conversations go smoothly. However, with that being said, I'd like to add that it doesn't matter what language you were born into. When it comes to speaking, it's all about practice. And don't just take it from me. You can find lots of stories of talk show hosts, TV news reporters, or actors whose job is to speak. And they will tell you that they practiced and practiced speaking, tongue twisters, their monologues. They worked on their pronunciation and clarity despite the fact that they were native speakers of their language. In our case, we're taking as an example native speakers of the English language. So this part, whether you want it or not, is inevitable. And it's twice as important for non-native speakers to practice and to work on improving their speaking skills. I'll link my playlist with the videos where I talk about how to improve your speaking skills in the description box. And since this is a big topic to talk about in itself, I'll make a separate video and try to condense everything onto a list to help you work on and really improve your pronunciation and speaking skills. It's gonna be about the actual ability to make sounds and pronounce words, because it's all about working on articulation of sounds. But think about this. Sometimes, even though a person is able to speak, there's no problems with the clarity of their speech, with their words or grammar. Sometimes people just might want to avoid talking to them.
A lot of malfunctioning wee-wees and hoo-hoos in this room, huh? I mean, you have a lovely home.
So what makes those people not very good conversationalists? That people just don't have the desire to talk to. And at the same time, what makes other people so good at interacting and communicating with others? You might think, but I'm not a native speaker and I have a problem with the actual speaking and grammar, so I probably don't need this right now. Wrong. There are more important things and key things than just being able to speak when it comes to human interaction. Of course, with zero English, you can't speak. This is just the fact. However, let's just take this example. Two people from different countries meet each other, date, and then get married. And neither of them might be good at speaking each other's native languages. Yet still, they communicate and they have a relationship. And believe me, real strong relationship is not about appearance, nor is it only physical. Communication and interaction play a very important role here, and communication is a skill that needs to be developed and can be improved, and it may be a good idea to work on those skills simultaneously. Now, the following information isn't something that I just made up. I gathered it from different sources such as books and videos of psychologists. And this is something that I've tried personally, and I'd like to share the things that I've tried and that I can confirm are things that work, and I stand by them. With that being said, I understand that we're all different and you might not like or need some of these things or may not want to try some of them. It's totally up to you. You can take it or leave it. But what I know for sure is that if you don't push yourself, if you don't go that extra mile, if you don't get out of your comfort zone, you don't grow and you don't improve. You're basically stumping on the same place. So the books that I will refer to the most are How to Talk to Anyone, Anytime, Anywhere by Larry King, a very famous American talk show host that I have in an audiobook format. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. He had his own training programs on self-improvement, public speaking, and interpersonal skills, etc. How to Talk to Anyone, and I don't know how to pronounce the name of the author, so I'll just put it on the screen and you can read it by yourself. And We Need to Talk by Celeste Headlee. I have them in an ebook format, and I highly recommend you read these books. They're so good. The number one thing that I want you to know and to remember is that to have good conversations, you don't have to speak for 10 minutes straight and always know what to say. The reason why I want to make this point the number one thing is because I always hear from people, but I might not be familiar with the topic a person might bring up, or I don't have much to say, or I can't speak for a very long time because it's hard and I lose my train of thought. Yes, it is hard, and you don't have to. Because there's always two or more people in a conversation, unless you're having a conversation with yourself. But you don't have to be the only one who speaks all the time, because usually people don't really like those people who talk non-stop and nobody else can get a word in edgewise. So keep it short. When someone asks you a question, give a nice open answer, but don't talk for 10 minutes. Even in public speaking or at meetings, keep it short and to the point. Be clear. A couple of clear thoughts are better than 10 minutes of mumbling and beating around the bush. The second essential thing is listen and be present in a conversation. Don't think about your next words or a story that you want to tell, but listen to your partner, and most importantly, try to hear what they're saying. Show your interest in them. People like to talk about themselves, and usually we can tell if someone's just not listening. I'm sure you're familiar with a situation when someone was just talking about something or sharing something, and obviously they wanted their conversation partner's opinion on the situation or support, or they wanted them to show at least some interest, but the other person jumped right into talking about themselves or something absolutely unrelated to their partner's words the moment their partner finished speaking. This is a sure way to never talk to that person again if this was your first time talking to them. A sure way to show your disrespect and even cool down relationships with your friends. In those books that I just mentioned, the authors describe situations when they were just good and sincere listeners and came out in people's eyes as great conversationalists. Use your smile and sense of humor, relax. Having a positive attitude and being able to laugh at yourself will serve you well. A smile, positive attitude, and humor helps people to relax and be themselves and creates a positive atmosphere. After being in such an atmosphere, people are left with a great feeling. And that's what people usually remember. They don't remember words. They remember the way they felt around a person and their emotions. Of course, when you first meet someone, smile. This is especially important because it sets the tone for the interaction right away. You can only make a first impression once. Remember this. Be honest and genuine and be yourself. You don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to be afraid to talk about your mistakes or failures. Your experiences, good or bad, mean a lot because they have shaped who you are. And actually, when a person opens up, talks about their mistakes first, admits their mistakes, it makes other people relax and trust you and feel you on that, because everybody makes mistakes. None of us is perfect, and sometimes people want to and need to talk about this. And these sensitive topics break the ice very well. And then if asked if they experience something like this or if they have any advice, it makes people feel important. Being yourself in terms of communication also means that you don't have to pretend, or it's better not to pretend. This means that if you don't like the topic that is being discussed, or you don't feel comfortable with it, or if people start gossiping and you don't want to be a part of this conversation, don't be. You can be honest and say politely that you don't feel comfortable talking about this. You will be more respected among the people in your tribe with whom you have real connections and have something in common if you are straightforward and honest. Also, you'll know right away if these people are not your people, if they don't like you just as you are. Plus, people can usually see if you don't like something or you're bored or uncomfortable. And if certain kinds of people notice this, they will try to force you to adapt against your will, and they might manipulate you later because of this. With this being said, let's move on to the next point. Be assertive, avoid uncertainties. Why be more assertive? So that people don't perceive you as a pushover, especially at your workplace.
I am not a pushover! Who said you were? You You did.
I'm flaky. I'll say anything.
You don't want them to take advantage of you. If people perceive you as a pushover, this means that they don't respect you, they don't trust your judgments and words, and they don't care about your point of view at all. And there are certain types of personality that are gonna try to pressure you, suppress you, and wrap you around their finger. That's why you need to speak up, stand up for yourself, and be assertive, but not aggressive. But that's a very huge topic per se. Talk about something that you know and talk confidently about it. And don't talk about the things you don't know or are not sure about. And the next couple of points are connected with this one. And sometimes I just want to give so much information that this is just impossible to condense everything into one video and not to make it an hour long. Avoid saying, well, I'm not sure, but, or I may be wrong, but. This is mainly for business meetings, professional conversations, and work. If you don't know something, just say so. But if you do know what you want to say it confidently. When you're having a casual conversation, of course, you can use these types of phrases, but your body language, your intonation and tone shouldn't show that you're self-conscious or afraid. You still have to act assertive because let's compare. Well, I think it'd be better. Or, well, I think it'd be better. When you're just having a casual conversation, it's not always a bad thing to be shy or awkward. Sometimes it's appropriate and even cute. But you've got to feel the situation. You got to know your audience. I don't want you to be overwhelmed with what I'm saying. And as I said, nobody's perfect and we always work on these things and improve and develop because we change and everything always changes. And communication is an art. So think of it as an art and not of something super complicated and hard. It's all about mindset. Respect. Respect people's experiences. Everyone's experience is different and unique. And what for one person might seem trivial, not important, nothing special, and they wouldn't consider it as an accomplishment, might seem for another to be very valuable, precious, and something to be proud of. Don't diminish people's experiences, but on the contrary, cheer them up and praise them. This will automatically win their trust. Don't argue. Arguing is never a good idea. Everybody has their own opinion and has the right to voice it. And if one person's opinion doesn't coincide with the other person's opinion, that doesn't mean that neither of them is right or wrong. They are just different people with different points of view.
You're controlling, you're irritating.
There you go again. Nag, nag, nag. You're only proving my point, little lady.
You know what? Screw you, Sheldon.
There's no need to prove to someone that you're right, and you can't. Thus, there's no point in arguing, and it's a sure way to make enemies. And let's talk about listening one more time. So many people, bright minds of this planet, have said and say that it's impossible to know everything and we're not always right. And there's always something to learn from someone else if we just listen and put our ego on the back shelf. And you might think, why does someone think this way? And would they consider something that you have to say and offer? But instead of saying, I disagree, and starting your passionate monologue trying to prove and defend your point of view, you can say, I see. That's an interesting thought because I thought this or that, and give your reasons and just have a discussion. Of course, I hope you understand that I'm not talking about a conversation when someone's trying to convince you in some nonsense. I'm not talking about something crazy. Keep an open mind. Be prepared. Mentally and in terms of knowledge. We all have our doubts, fears, and insecurities that we might have gotten from our past experiences, but we shouldn't allow them to control us and affect us. If you know that you will be having a conversation, for example, you're going to take part in a speaking club or going to a party or having a meeting with someone and you're nervous about it, you have to turn your fear into excitement. Easier said than done, I know. But scientists say that the feeling of fear is very close to the feeling of excitement. Your body experiences the same symptoms. You can trick your brain and tune into this. And listening to your favorite music helps a lot as well, by the way. You have to train your mind to be stronger than your emotions. I talk about these things in more depth in my video on the fear of speaking English. The link's in the description box. In terms of knowledge, if you have the opportunity to prepare, do it, of course. Meaning that if you know something about the person you're going to speak with, their interests, their work, try to find out more about it so that you know at least what to ask about. If you know the topic that is going to be discussed at a meeting, read about it. Having said that, the next point, you can't know everything. Embrace this. If you are faced with a situation when you're in a conversation and you are not familiar with the topic or you don't know how to answer, that is absolutely normal. Don't be afraid of these situations because they will inevitably happen. Just acknowledge this and say something like, "That's a great question that I don't have the answer to, but I'd love to hear what you think about it." Or, "Tell me more. I'd love to hear more about it. It sounds so interesting. I've never heard about this before." Be curious. Normal people will never judge you for not knowing something and not mock you if you forget a word or whatever, especially if you're not speaking your first language. And if that does happen, you want to stay away from those toxic people anyway. Not every conversation is going to be an easy or successful one. There will be people that you just won't vibe with. You will have absolutely different points of view and you won't be able to connect with those people. And it's okay. You have to accept this. This is not a failure in communication. This is life, and it's just the way things are. If you do have to communicate with such people at your work, for example, keep those conversations professional, short, clear, and polite. Don't argue and don't try to prove anything because it's usually impossible to prove something to another person. And a couple of bonus things. Ask follow-up questions. Communication is not a one-way street. For a successful communication, we need to connect with people. We can easily do this by showing our interest in them and asking questions. Depending on what a person has said, you can ask follow-up open-ended questions. "That sounds so great," or "that sounds so interesting, tell me more." Saying to a person who was just speaking about something or answered a question very passionately, "Tell me more," or "I'd love to hear more about it," works like a charm. Be it their job, a dream, a trip, or a project that they're working on, they'll be glad to talk more about it and they'll appreciate your attention and curiosity. Try to avoid yes or no questions, especially at the beginning of a conversation. Closed questions usually don't give much information and lead to a dead end in a conversation. Ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are questions to which you can't answer yes or no. You have to give an open answer with more depth and more context. For example, what is it like to live in your city? What do you like the most about your job? What was the most exciting thing that happened to you this week? If you're at a party, for example, you can ask, "Have you tried the food yet? What would you recommend?" So, how do you know the host? All these things will help you win your conversation partner's trust and attention. They will in return listen to you more attentively. And they apply both to communication in your everyday life, in your native language, and to the situations when you need to communicate with someone in English. But especially when you're communicating in English, because oftentimes people have a communication barrier. They're afraid to speak in English, afraid and shy. We're always thinking of our mistakes. We're afraid that we might say something stupid, and we think that we have to be perfect. And as non-native speakers, we judge ourselves too strictly. And we overthink things too much. But keeping all these simple things in mind will help you become more relaxed and confident. Well, it was a really information-heavy video, but believe me, there's so much more you want to know if you're interested in this topic. That's why don't forget about those books. And I hope you found this video useful. If that's so, thumbs up, subscribe if you aren't yet, click the bell icon, share this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!